You know, when I became president in January of 1993, back in the dark ages, the average cell phone weighed 5 pounds. And there were 50 sites on the entire World Wide Web. 50. There have been more added than that since I've been talking.
God made man in his own image. God intended for man to become one with God. We are going to become one with God. Cloning and the reprogramming of DNA is the first serious step in becoming one with God.
This issue is going to dominate our global politics this century. This is the issue that will color the century. As we merge with machines, and I think it's inevitable that we will transform and are going to start linking with each other and become this meta-intelligence. And we will eventually become an interconnection of the entire human race. And we will become godlike once you plug into that global network.
At this moment in our civilization, we can create cybernetic individuals who, in just a few short years, will be completely indistinguishable from us. Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now.
All I want is the best for our lives, my dear. And you know my wishes are sincere. What's to say for all the days I cannot?
Well, we've all seen it in fictional movies like The Terminator, Blade Runner, and The Matrix, a snapshot at artificial intelligence run amok. But what if it was not only a problem exclusive to the movies? What if the robots that scientists are taking great strides to develop could one day outsmart us? It's a notion that world-famous physicist Stephen Hawking called some attention to in a recent interview with the BBC. Hawking has been living with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, for over 50 years now, and he benefits from the advancements in artificial intelligence. But he warned that if the technology matches human capabilities, it could take off on its own and basically redesign itself as an ever-increasing rate. So what exactly does that mean, and could it be a red flag in a burgeoning field? To discuss, earlier I spoke with Josh Bongard. He's a professor of computer science at the University of Vermont and an expert in artificial intelligence. I first asked him for his thoughts on what Hawking had to say.
It's an interesting statement, Amir, as you mentioned. Professor Hawking, along with several others, have very strong views about what's known as the technological singularity. And the singularity is the idea that technology and artificial intelligence in particular will increase up to a point where they will accelerate and surpass human intelligence and perhaps replace us as the most intelligent species on this planet. It's a very extreme viewpoint indeed.
But as I understand it, there are others who disagree with him. What do they say about the field of AI?
Well, just as Professor Hawking and several others are extremely pessimistic about the future of technology, there are others that are very optimistic and believe that humans and machines will somehow merge and we will reach some point post-scarcity. So there will no longer be hunger, there will no longer be want, there will no longer be human misery, and that the ultimate of all of our tools, AI, will lift us out of these problems that have plagued us throughout human history.
And Stephen Hawking is, of course, bringing up this idea, likely to remind the community and the public that this is a question that really needs to be addressed, needs to be explored. Is it being addressed? Is the other side of the coin, the potential detrimental effects of this technology, being researched?
There are now a number of think tanks at some of the most prominent universities throughout the world that are looking at the ethical side of artificial intelligence, and particularly focusing on what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years with the acceleration of this technology.
And for those people that fear the worst, that fear robots will begin to control us instead of us controlling them, what do you say to them? What kinds of safeguards are in place to make sure AI machines don't run amok?
That's a good point, and I think it is important for us to address where this technology is going. I do believe, however, we need to really look at this technology and understand that it's not spiraling out of control. Like all of the technologies from nuclear power and weapons all the way back to stone clubs are ultimately a tool, and it's up to us to decide how to use them. Artificial intelligence is different from a lot of the technologies we've developed in the past, however, in that we seem to be merging with this technology. All of us use technology, and perhaps without knowing it, using AI in our everyday lives. We're communicating with technology right now, and one could ask, where does the human part of our interview end and the technological part begin? And I think the future is going to see a greater and greater merging of technologies and humans. So it's not so much an us and them scenario as a we together scenario. And that makes me optimistic about the future of AI.
You know, ironically, the alarm is being raised here by Stephen Hawking, someone who is relying on and benefiting from this technology himself. In fact, as I understand it, he just got an upgrade that will allow him to write up to 10 times faster and communicate more effectively, and that's certainly going to have a huge impact on his life. Can you talk very briefly about the advances we're seeing in the field more generally that are bringing a lot of practical benefits to people?
Absolutely. So you brought up Professor Hawking's new speech interface, and absolutely there again you see humanity and technology being entwined in ever more intimate fashions. And like all of our tools, it's being used to empower people. It's allowing Professor Hawking to communicate more effectively. We're also seeing the rise of surgical implants that have an AI component to them. There are many human users now of cochlear implants that allow them to hear, retinal implants that allow people to see, and we're now on the cusp of new technologies which are brain implants, some technology and AIs that can communicate directly with our brains. It's scary. It's a new technology. We're always apprehensive of the unknown. But as we've seen in the last few years, most of these technologies are empowering people rather than disenfranchising them.
Well, just like with any technology, it seems there is a good, a bad, and, of course, the ugly. Josh Vongard, a professor of computer science at the University of Vermont. Thanks for weighing in on that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And a warning from Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with cars. Instead, Musk warned about artificial intelligence, which he has called more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
We should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful with artificial intelligence. I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
Now, I have to ask you about a company that you invested in. As you said, you make almost no investments outside of SpaceX.
Yeah, I'm not really an investor.
You're not an investor.
Right. I don't own any public securities apart from SolarCity and Tesla.
That's amazing. But you did just invest in a company called Vicarious Artificial Intelligence. What is this company?
Right. I was also an investor in DeepMind before Google acquired it, and Vicarious. Mostly, I sort of want to. It's not from the standpoint of actually trying to make any investment return. It's really. I'd like to just keep an eye on what's going on with artificial intelligence. I think there's potentially a dangerous outcome there, and we need to.
Dangerous.
Potentially, yes.
How so?
I mean, there's been movies about this, like Terminator.
Yes, but movies are. Even if that's the case, what do you do about it? I mean, what dangers do you see that you can actually do something about?
I don't know.
Well, why did you invest in Vicarious? What exactly does Vicarious do? What do you see it doing down the line?
Well, I mean, the Vicarious refers to it as recursive cortical networks, essentially emulating the human brain. Yeah, so I think, yeah.
So you want to make sure that technology is used for good and not Terminator-like evil?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, if in the movie Terminator, they didn't create AI to, they didn't expect, some sort of Terminator-like outcome. It's sort of, like that Monty Python thing. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. It's just like, but you got to be careful. So you want to make sure that.
But here's the irony. I mean, the man who's responsible for some of the most advanced technology in this country is worried about the advances in technology that you're aware of. I mean, I guess that's why I keep asking, what can you do? In other words, this stuff is almost inexorable, isn't it? How, if you see that there's these brain-like developments out there, can you really do anything to stop it?
I don't know.
Well, what should AI be used for? What's its best value?
I don't know. But there's some scary outcomes, and we should try to make sure that the outcomes are good and not bad. Yeah.
Or escape to Mars if there's no other option.
The AI will chase us there pretty quickly.
And as the ultimate disruptor, when you look at all the technologies out there, you talked a little about artificial intelligence. What else do you think is really disruptive to the status quo right now?
Well, rewriting human genetics, that would be quite disruptive.
Designed them to be trusted with our homes, with our way of life, with our world. But did we design them to be trusted?